And it all comes down to this one final round of action in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, and it brings us to Sin City. Welcome to the championship finale for the 2022 NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the booth tonight is Ian Fisher. And Ian, you've been along for the ride for all 20 rounds of this campaign. I've been able to join you for a small handful of them, but this campaign has ran its course all the way from August to now, and it's been a really exciting one to watch unfold, not just because who we've had in victory lane, but the storylines we've had leading up to tonight. I mean, just last week, we didn't really know who the final four were going to be, and it kind of surprised us who ended up making this championship finale tonight.
Absolutely, and the playoffs too have just been, you mentioned it, I mean the regular season was kind of wrapped up early by Ted Wade, and he was really dominant, but once we got to the playoffs, we didn't know what would happen week to week throughout our playoff rounds that we had here, and then it all wraps up here at Vegas this evening, and Ted Wade's is still your favorite going through the season, Josh, and probably here tonight, but it's a one race here for the championship, and anything can happen.
And we weren't sure if Ted Wade, after Talladega, was even going to make it through Bristol and make it to Las Vegas and be a part of the championship four. But he was able to survive that Elite 8 round with a win at Bristol 2 weeks ago. And he is in the Final Four along with three other names. Stephen Thomas will go fighting for a championship as well. He'll be going for his first, along with Ted Wade also going for his first. Same thing with Chris Cinnamon, the winner from all the way back in Daytona at the beginning of the year. He won again at Kansas to qualify himself into the Elite 8 and then survived through Talladega and Bristol to be with us here in the championship finale. And then Taylor Peacock, the last name on that list, is a bit of a wild card, Ian. No wins yet this season for Taylor Peacock, but he makes it to the championship four. I have a feeling for any one of these four to win their first ever NASRA championship, they're gonna need to win this race.
And what a time to do it if you're Taylor Peacock, than getting your win in the championship race to seal it up. Obviously, you don't have to win this race here to win the championship. You just got to be the best finisher out of those four drivers, Josh. But what a day to get your first win here and come home with the championship. And for Taylor Peacock, he started at our Clash at the beginning of the season. It wasn't a points race, and I bring it up every time we talk about him, but he won that at Daytona, Josh. So not a stranger to victory lane, but hasn't got it done in a points race. Tonight could be the night for him.
And it sounds a little bit weird, but at least in the iRacing service, a lot of similarities can be drawn between Daytona and the racing here at Las Vegas within these trucks. It does act like a little bit of a plate track, but tonight at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we'll go racing for 135 laps, with that opening stage ending at lap 32, second stage ending around lap 68, a little bit past halfway, and then we will be running all the way through to the end of 135 laps. Full fuel tanks, 4 tire sets remaining in the pit lane for the drivers, and of course the custom fix setup as always for the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. But right now in qualifying, we've got Tyler Dittmer just barely edging out Stephen Thomas at the top of the board to get that Pulse Poppers pole award. About a minute remaining in qualifying, but I can see Stephen Thomas there in second, currently on the qualifying leaderboard. I look a good way down to 11th, Ian, to find Ted Wade, and then 14th and 15th for Taylor Peacock, and a 13th for Chris Cinnamon. The fastest out of the championship four by a long shot right now, even though it's only about a 10th of a second, is Stephen Thomas.
Well, and it's only a 10th of a second, Josh, but I think track position is going to be very, very important here tonight at Las Vegas. I don't think we're going to see a lot of yellow flags, except for probably going to be our stage cautions. So I think track position is going to be at a premium here this evening, and if we do get into that final stage at a green flag pit stop, you definitely want to be towards the front of the pack. You don't want to have your work cut out for you, like say even Ted Wade now finds himself in the 11th position, even though you mentioned it, only about 100th of a second between these times in first and last.
We want to lower the usage of the C word tonight, Ian. I don't want a caution-filled championship finale. I want us to go green to the end.
Well, I was really worried when you said C word. I said something else. So I'm glad it was just caution. I'll just say that.
No, only caution. We weren't caught there. But as qualifying ends, we get ready to go racing. We'll take a look at your starting grid. It's a pretty packed field tonight. 27 drivers, or 26 actually, going to get ready to go racing here from iRacing's virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Non-playoff driver in Tyler Dittmer on the pole at a 30.801. Stephen Thomas will to be starting to his outside. Championship for contender on the outside of row 1. Keith Bradley, Michael McKinnon going to share the second row. Christopher Blanchard and Ed Osborne going to share the third row, 5th and 6th. Back from there, Brady LaBeouf and Justin Lumpkin on row 4. Rounding out your top 10 will be Jose Luis Rivera and Robbie Richards. You have to go to 11th to find the next playoff driver in Ted Wade, but only a 30.905, about a 10th back from Stephen Thomas. Zach Hartwick will start to the outside in row 6. Chris Cinnamon and another championship 4 driver, and James Morris going to share the 7th row. Our last of our 4 in the championship 4, Taylor Peacock, starts in P15. Dana Shepard will start P16 outside of row 8. Raul Meza, Devin Painter, 17th and 18th on row number 9. And Jeffrey Sickles with Huck Wigington going to round out your top 20. 21st goes to Brandon Bullock and Kyle Hess. First 2 not to take a time in qualifying. 23rd, Dane Hagen. 24th, Keith Haney. 25th goes to Cody Knott with Clint Mata going to round out the 26 drivers on the starting grid. TJ Moore being race control. He will not be taking the green flag, but 26 drivers still ready to go racing in the finale, which taking place at a very unique track to do a championship finale. But Ian, Las Vegas is no stranger to big money and big prizes, and somebody tonight is going to walk away a champion.
I really do think Las Vegas is a great racetrack for a championship race here, especially on the iRacing service. You kind of mentioned it, Josh, that in these trucks, it almost races a little bit like a super speedway, and that's very true. I will say here on these early laps, though, about 5 laps until these drivers get a few laps on these Goodyear tires, Josh, these trucks are very loose, though. And that's something to pay attention to. I think the driver that can manage their tires throughout the early stage of this race really has a good spot here going into the latter half of this race.
As a Monster Jam fan, of course, since I was basically born, we always crown champions for 19 years straight in Las Vegas, so I'm very familiar to crowning champions when it comes to Las Vegas. And as they roll off from the front straightaway, and a bit of a cold night here in Las Vegas, of course the dry heat of the desert then turns into a bit of a dry cold in the evening. Nothing to trap that heat, so 69 degrees on the track temp, 68 in the air, but some high whipping desert winds at 8 miles an hour out of the northeast. Pretty interesting weather to see, Ian, because they'll have a little bit of an advantage in the grip department with that cold air, but then look at that wind speed just continuing to be cranked up into the northeast as well. Could provide a little bit more of a challenge with the setups on each of these trucks.
Yeah, the wind there, especially at that length, or I'm sorry, at that speed, we'll do a little bit of handling here for our drivers here as they come out of turns 3 and 4. Josh, we're almost ready to get going here for our championship run, and I believe actually we might go one more lap. Looks like the lights are still out there on the pace truck here, and I'm really not quite sure what Chris Cinnamon is doing right now, but I'm sure he'll file back in line here in just a second.
Wondering if there's a special championship 4 moment that was supposed to happen up here at the front, and we might just be missing a handful of drivers from that one. But the lights were still on the pace truck. They will now go off this time by, and we'll continue to get ready to go racing. That's Tyler Dittmer in the 34 on the inside of row number 1, taking the Pulse Poppers Pole Award, with Stephen Thomas in the 23 on the outside. And now Chris Cinnamon going to work his way back into a line where he will begin this race, and we'll get ready to go racing through turns 1 and 2. Field double file here for the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And Ian, we've mentioned it, this track racing a bit like a plate track, and you mentioned the track position specifically being important. Stephen Thomas is going to start with a leg up on the competition, but of course we still have the stage 1 caution at guaranteed, stage 2 caution guaranteed, and then at least a green flag stop in the 3rd stage guaranteed. So still a lot of flipping around that these positions can do off of the racetrack.
Yeah, and Stephen Thomas here, all he has to do is just kind of file in and tick away these laps early in this race. But one question that I have for you, Josh, before we get going here, I wonder if Evan's here. I wonder if Evan Pasoko is in the stands tonight.
It's Las Vegas, so you're almost guaranteed to find an Evan Pasoko in the stands at Las Vegas Motor Speedway whenever there's any type of racing or motorsport in the vicinity. But the iRacing pace truck is going to pull off into the safety of pit lane, and for one final time here on Racecraft TV in 2022, we'll say let's go championship racing. It's time to crown a champion in Vegas. problems for Chris Cinnamon already. He falls all the way down to P25. Not sure what happened there to that number 3, but he is very slow and off the pace. It is not a championship 4 contender leading the first lap. Tyler Dittmer in the 34 off to a blazing fast start. Remember, he was very quick at the beginning of Bristol 2 weeks ago. Ian ran into an issue and ended up not making it into the final 4. I bet he's wondering right now with a very quick number 34 Chevy Silverado, what if he were to make it into the championship 4?
You're always going to wonder what if, Josh, right? But I think if you're in a position like the 34 of Dittmer is in right now, leading this race, you might think that part of that comes from the pressure that's not on him anymore. As we have our caution flag coming out right now, it looks like, I'm not entirely sure who that was right now. It looks like that's possibly the 45 of Shepard that was involved now towing to the pits, Josh, but I don't know what that costs.
Yeah, 45 of Dana Shepard involved in that one, brings out caution number 1 of the evening. Field will slow down to a cautious pace, but it looked like a bit of a hookup on the front straightaway between him and I believe James Morris in the 47. It was a bit of a harsh door slam to the side of both of these trucks. And there's James Morris just kind of coming up into the line of the 45. And unfortunately for the 39 as well, that's Dane Hagen that was on the inside, just nowhere for that number 39 Chevy Silverado to go. So that was what brought out caution flag number 1. And Ian, very easy to do at this track, just this not really knowing how far to the outside the truck is in that tri-oval, especially if you're going to use a bit of that apron to go down to the inside. Not much you can do there with just not knowing where that truck is on the outside. And I don't blame James Morris there. Really just had no idea how far Dana Shepard was going to be up the track.
No, and sometimes too, especially coming through those tri-oval sections when people will try to cut all the way down to the apron, you might have in your head that one driver is going to go all the way down, so you can go down a little bit lower because you think they're going to take that far apron line, and then they don't. And I think that's just what we saw there, Josh. I don't think there was any malicious intent to it as well, or anybody really made a mistake there. Just two drivers that thought they were going for the same piece of real estate and ended up ending up there at the same time. A few drivers to pit road here, but I think that's just for repair damage early here, Josh.
And that is Clint Mata in the pits, Keith Haney, Dane Hagen, and James Morris. So 4 drivers not involved in our championship 4. That will keep Stephen Thomas in 3rd when it comes to our championship 4 drivers. That'll put Ted Wade into 9th. It'll put Taylor Peacock to 14th, and then it'll move Chris Cinnamon up to 20th. Not sure what happened to the number 3 there off the start, but not the best start for the Chevy Silverado behind with Chris Cinnamon. But Stephen Thomas in the 23 in that Powerhouse Motorsports entry had a really, really good start. Even though he did lose 1 spot, Ian still has a bit of a gap over himself and Ted Wade, who that 2 machine and over-the-top designs Chevy Silverado is on the back foot right now. He's got a lot of positions to try and gain before he's contending for the top spot with Stephen Thomas.
And I will say one advantage to Stephen Thomas this time around, we go back to Green Flag Racing. He's going to be on the inside of that second row, and you saw the advantage that Bradley had. Was able to get out there and steal that second position away from Stephen Thomas. I still think you're doing a great job right now if you're in the 23 camp. Do what you can early in this race to just stay out of trouble and put yourself in a spot to potentially win this championship. But I think this helps him out a little bit, being on the inside of the second row here.
Lights go out on the official iRacing pace truck, and we'll get ready to go racing. Lights will stay on for now as they work their way through turns 1 and 2. Waiting on Dan Hagen is still stuck in the pit lane, and then we have James Morris, Clint Mata, Keith Haney all getting back up to the edge of the pacing line. And there's a badly damaged number 39 that is staying in the pit lane for a little bit of extended time. A head-on collision for him with the 45 of Dana Shepard to bring out that last caution. So relatively familiar to see a 2-minute and over pit stop time for a very badly damaged 39 truck. But as we get ready to go racing this time by, Dittmer and Bradley, two drivers in that were in contention for the championship 4, then just did not make it out of Bristol. They're showing some speed tonight, and that's still important. There still is another race going on that is not part of the championship 4, but if they were two drivers that did make it into tonight, they would be at the front of the championship right now.
Still a good way to end your season, though, with a race win and kind of playing spoiler to some of these drivers here that are battling for the championship. If you're able to come in and steal the checkered flag here in the last race of the season, that definitely does say something. It gives you a lot of momentum going into next year as well, Josh. I'm not entirely sure how many of these drivers are going to come back out of, you know, say Dittmer, Brady, or Bradley, Steve Thomas, Brady LaBeouf. I think they'll be moving up next year, but might as well finish your season on a strong foot either way.
Lights are now out on the official iRacing pace truck, and we will get ready to go back to racing. We had completed, I believe, only about 2 laps before that initial caution came out. Now we are going to go back to racing on lap number 8. Stage number 1 ends at lap number 32. We'll see how long this next green flag run will be. For the first time tonight, all 4 of your championship 4 contenders are inside the top 20. Chris Cinnamon down in 19th, Taylor Peacock up in 13th, Ted Wade in 10th, and Stephen Thomas in 3rd. As we will get ready to go back to racing. The iRacing pace truck will pull back into the safety of the pit lane as the sun continues to set from virtual Las Vegas. The lights will come on, and we will crown a champion under the lights in Sin City. Pace truck back into the safety of pit lane, and we will go back to racing once the field of 24 hit the Geico restart zone. Tyler Dittmer in control of the field, and we're back underway to lap number 8 from Las Vegas.
Look at the jump that Dittmer was able to get there off the restart, Josh. Heading into turn 1, he'll be able to clear both Thomas and Bradley here. Now they're going to battle side by side coming off of turn 2 there. Thomas shutting the door on Bradley a little bit here, and Dittmer's going to move to the bottom here to kind of seal off Thomas. It looks like we'll see if Thomas can make that high side work. See if he thinks better of it now and goes down to the bottom coming out of 3 and 4.
Off of 4, side by side for 4th. That is Christopher Blanchard to the inside. Brady LaBeouf on the outside as they will work their way through turns 1 and 2. Again, here's where you get to see a little bit of that Daytona Talladega-like racing, more actually akin to the new Atlanta Motor Speedway in with almost full throttle. Once those tires wear off, you'll have to lift a little bit, but right now it's full throttle all the way around this racetrack, and they are picking up speed and trying to choose what line is going to move the best.
Yeah, and you see now Bradley here moves down to the bottom. He's going to try to take the position away from Thomas again, kind of similar to what we saw with our initial start there. Bradley in the 29 able to get to the bottom of the racetrack before the 23 can. And you see there right now the 23 is running about a lane and a half up off of that white line right there, Josh. He could be trying to get clean air on the front of the nose of that 23, but also as well, I think the 29 with this setup they have on these trucks this evening is just enjoying it a little bit more right now.
Chris Cinnamon and Taylor Peacock falling way down the order. They're now 18th and 19th as Ted Wade works his way, trying to battle for 6th. He's to the outside of Raul Meza, working his way through turns 1 and 2 to the back straightaway. He's got to try and get by Christopher Blanchard as well. You're on board with the Chevy Silverado over the top designs number 2 of Ted Wade as he'll dive his way through 3 and 4. There's Raul Meza in the 37 to the inside, and to take that 6th spot back. What a great move by the 37. And Raul Meza this season, not quite the playoff implications that he wanted from the year in, but he has had some very, very quick race trucks this year.
No, especially at our plate tracks as well. He's been one of the drivers that has been one of the best pushers in the field, at least in my humble opinion as well. But he did not give that spot up easily to Ted Wade and actually took it back from him here. And is now even making a move on Blanchard. Now you'll see Wade starts to go to the inside of Blanchard here. But yeah, Meza was really giving Ted Wade a run for his money there on the bottom side of the racetrack.
Side by side now, Ted Wade and Christopher Blanchard. As Stephen Thomas on that inside line, you can see that silver and blue tailgate of that number 23 Ford F-150 or Toyota Tundra, trying to fight with Brady LaBeouf. Now, he did just recently lose that third spot. Now, Stephen Thomas playing a little bit of damage control as here comes the 37 of Raul Meza, but it's a battle for the race lead as well. Keith Bradley was able to get that spot away. Now, Tyler Dittmer going to look back to the outside, and it is 2 by 2, side by side, working their way back to turn 1.
And I thought Stephen Thomas was going to be really aggressive there, Josh, and try to dive it down in the turn number 1. And I do think if you're Stephen Thomas in this 23 right now, you see Ted Wade. He's right there behind you now, almost a car length. He's even looking to the inside of you now. I think you're running out of time if you're Stephen Thomas. You got to get to the front of this pack and start leading this race if you're him right now.
Still side by side for Stephen Thomas, who now is up on that outside line and side by side with fellow championship 4 contender in Ted Wade. Wade to the inside, gonna get a huge run as they all have to check up for a moment. I believe Stephen Thomas might have gotten a little tight, almost made contact with Brady LaBeouf, but that was a massive move for Ted Wade and one that he had to make sooner rather than later. Up and into 4th and into the lead of the championship finale goes Ted Wade.
Well, right now, Ted Wade's doing all he needs to do. He's up in front of Stephen Thomas and continuing to click away at these positions. I would say within the next couple of laps, you'll probably see a new leader, and his name is going to be Ted Wade, but he does have to continue to chase down Meza. One driver that's been kind of equaling pace with him is that 37 truck in front of him there of Raul Meza. Was able to beat him through the field up to this point so far and is now holding off Ted Wade and Keith Bradley there for first position.
Still side by side for first, but what a drive up through the field for Raul Meza. Plus 16 on the night so far for that number 37. A great run so far tonight, but he's looking to try and get a little bit further and pass Keith Bradley and clear him for the race lead. Keith Bradley will be clear now, the 37, and here comes Ted Wade to the outside for P2. Two teammates in the 29 and the 2 machine as Ted Wade tried to go around the outside of Raul Meza, could not get that move done. He'll fall back into line as Meza looks to the inside of the 29 of Keith Bradley, working well because Meza has been gaining his way up through the field using that inside line. Keith Bradley favoring that middle line along with his teammate Ted Wade behind, so gives Meza a lane to try and make a move. And here comes Stephen Thomas and Tyler Dittmer battling side by side for 4th now.
Yeah, Bradley had an excellent run there last time off of turn number 2, able to complete the pass on Meza for now, but hasn't been quite able to clear him. You see Meza now battling back on the inside line as well, and it's kind of interesting to see who Ted Wade decides to go with. At first, he was trying to follow Meza through. Now he's trying to follow his over-the-top designs teammate here in Keith Bradley on that outside line, but Meza, I still think, at least right now in the race, Josh, still has the preferred line around the bottom.
Still side by side for 2nd place, this time by the start finish line. 13 laps to go in stage number 1. Bradley clear for a moment off of 4, but Meza gonna be right there. The entire top 10 right now separated by about 1 second on this track. Very similar to what we saw at Atlanta, albeit maybe a little bit more spread out as Justin Lumpkin makes a big tap to the outside retaining wall in turns 1 and 2. The 87 is slow on the outside. No caution. We stay green. No incident either, as now that will bunch the field back up at the front as here comes Meza looking for the lead again.
And that happened too. That incident with Lumpkin, Josh, happened right in front of one of our championship drivers, Chris Cinnamon, in the 3 truck there in the 18th position. Now he's kind of struggled here early on, now worked his way all the way back up to the 18th position, but it's a far cry from where he started around in the top 5 there. So not entirely sure what's been going on with the 3 machine all night long. Just hasn't seemed to be able to get anything going for him here at this Las Vegas racetrack, Josh.
Side by side for 2nd place now as Bradley clears. Meza now in a battle with Ted Wade. These are two of your championship contenders, and Wade and Thomas up on that outside line. You got to look about 3 seconds back the road to find Chris Cinnamon, and a long way back to find Taylor Peacock, who has fallen way down the order and way off the pace by now 18 seconds back from Keith Bradley. And wondering if there's an issue for that number 81, as he is wildly off the pace at the current moment, or maybe trying to save the tires for that long. But with now at the line, 10 to go in the stage, Ian, you're not really playing the long game. If anything, you're playing the short sprint game, with only 32 laps going to go on each of these tires, and 5 of them being under the caution flag.
Yeah, not much wear in the tires, I would guess, so far throughout this run, especially with, you mentioned it, that caution flag kind of coming right in the middle of it. But yeah, if you're Peacock, you do have, I will say this, Josh, the stage points tonight at least aren't as important for our championship 4 drivers, because if you win the race, you finish up front, you're going to be the champion. So not as important. So I guess if you're Peacock in the 81 and this is an alternate strategy, you do have the luxury of kind of trying to go for that here this evening. But yeah, I definitely think there's something wrong with him right now.
Still side by side for the race lead now, but that is between 2 teammates, with Ted Wade on the inside, Keith Bradley on the outside, both representing over-the-top designs in both of their Chevy Silverados. Where does Stephen Thomas now try and go? He can try and go all the way to the outside 3 wide, try and go in the middle 3 wide, or all the way down the bottom if he gets a lane open. But right now, 2 teammates in control of the field, Ian, and side by side, giving Stephen Thomas and the 23 very limited options.
Yeah, and I think if you're Stephen Thomas here, and this is a good job of it right now, you just got to go someplace where there's not a truck in front of you, and their dirty air isn't going to affect you. It's definitely going to be affecting these trucks at this long, you mentioned it, almost super speedway style of racing. Is more nose you get on the nose of that truck, the more downforce you're going to have. So if you're a driver like Stephen Thomas, you're trying to chase these 2 teammates down, you don't want to sit right in their wake, Josh. You kind of want to offset yourself, maybe car length and a half, so you can get yourself a little bit of clean air on that nose.
On board with the number 23 is Stephen Thomas, as he fights from 3rd. He tried to go to the inside of Ted Wade, was not able to get anything done there. And now with 6 laps remaining in the first stage of the night, not a ton of time left if he wants to gain any more spots. Remember, stage points do not influence the championship 4. It is whoever is the first across the start-finish line in stage number 3 and at the end of the race that is going to walk away with this championship. Hearing that the 22 of Jeffrey Sickles is a little bit slow on the racetrack, might have gotten into the outside wall. He is back in P20, and he's right behind Justin Lumpkin. Not seeing a ton of damage to the outside of that truck, but we saw it earlier with the 9 of Brady LaBeouf, Ian, that if you get up and out of the groove into the outside marbles, you might as well be in the wall. No damage, but you're going to lose a ton of time and spots.
Yeah, nobody's really gone up here this early in the race to that top line to really clean it off so far. So, yeah, if you're going to be the first driver up there and really challenging that high side, you do run the risk of getting a little bit tight in those marbles and maybe washing up into the wall a little bit, Josh. That definitely is for sure. I'm not exactly entirely sure if that's the exact thing that happened to Brady LaBeouf. But, yeah, you mentioned it. Once you get up there in that high groove, it definitely has to be worn in a little bit first.
Field single filing themselves out for one of the first times tonight as they work their way through turns 3 and 4. Tires starting to gloss over in wear. We're at about 1 second total in lost time in terms of the lap times right now on the racetrack, and issues for the 26, or actually the 28, excuse me, pulling down 78, pulling down onto the pit lane. That's Keith Haney, and that is wildly over speed, and he doesn't make it into his pit stall, but he is going to retire. That was almost an all-star race-esque type entry into the pit lane. He just straight turns down to the apron and pulls it over into the pit lane. I'm not sure if he even hit the wall or anything, Ian. That was a very strange moment from the 78.
So I have one of 3 possible solutions for you here, Josh. Either 1, Mom said it was time to go to bed and you can't play iRacing anymore, which I don't really think so, because I don't think Keith lives with his mom still. 2, food was ready, which is another thing that is entirely possible. Or 3, the old lady might have said, hey, you want to come to bed, which is also, another completely reasonable excuse. But it looks like he was just trying to get out of the session as fast as possible, Josh. But we're almost done here with stage number 1, and Ted Wade still has to be able to muscle the lead here from his teammate.
Teammates controlling the race right now is honestly a very important part of this championship 4 discussion, because Stephen Thomas might have had an opportunity to get that lead and take it away from Ted Wade and Keith Bradley in one swing. However, exactly what they're doing right now, being side by side, limits Stephen Thomas to one option, and that is around the outside, which is the worst option and the option most likely to not work. Caution flag is going to fly. I'm not sure where. Yes, end of the stage. I was not watching the lap counter. Thank you.
No, I thought it was 34, so that's why I was a little bit confused as well. But yeah, I think that's just the end of stage 1 there right now. And Ted Wade, Stephen Thomas been the only 2 drivers, at least out of your championship 4, Josh, that have really had anything for, honestly, the rest of the field so far this evening.
It's very much the end of stage 1. I need to watch the lap counter a little bit closer, but that will end stage number 1, and Keith Bradley will win the stage. That will be important stage points for him in his fight to gain a little bit more points on the entire season total. But as far as your championship 4 are considered, only 2 of them going to finish inside the top 10, but points do not matter tonight. It is whoever crosses the finish line first at the end of 135 laps that will determine your champion. But it is Keith Bradley that leads the way, with Ted Wade, Stephen Thomas, Tyler Dittmer, and Brady LaBeouf rounding out the top 5. Pit stops this time by, expecting everybody to come in for at least 4 fresh Goodyear tires, but I'm wondering what exactly they learned about this run that is going to help them in the final run, because the last run of this race is going to be about 60 laps. So they basically just ran about half that distance. They're going to be pitting under green at about where they are right now in the 3rd stage.
Well, it's a really good litmus test for the rest of the race, Josh, as you kind of mentioned here, because like you said, they had about a 30-lap run on these tires. They'll come down and get 4 freshies this time by, and it gives you a really good comparison there to see where you fall off with, especially in the beginning of the run, 30 laps in. Now that the sun has set as well, too, Josh, because remember when we started this race, it was daytime going in the nighttime. Now we're fully in nighttime. You see the long shadows there on each one of these cars as they come down pit road. This will give you an opportunity to see how your truck handles in these conditions, and then you can kind of make your decision from there.
Everybody into the pit lane. First driver out looks to be Brady LaBeouf in the 9. He will win the race off of the pit lane. 11.7 in the box. I think that was either not 2 complete cans of fuel, or that was 2 tires by the 9. I think it might have been the latter.
Yeah, I'm not sure, actually. I can see the fuel as well, Josh, because you're not going to need all of it to the end of stage 2, and then you just fill up the tank and then go from there when it comes to stage 3. But whatever Brady LaBeouf and that 9 camp did, it got him up to the front of this race right now. And Brady LaBeouf, another one of those drivers, again, very talented, kind of a mainstay here in this series, but needed to do something a little bit differently to get himself a little bit extra track position here. And now, as we mentioned, that he goes to pit road again, so I think Josh possibly topping up the fuel tank, or he might be serving a penalty here.
No, so I just looked back at the replay. He took no tires on that stop. I'm thinking he might have had his tires unchecked, possibly expecting maybe another yellow flag, and then forgot to recheck them under this stage caution. So he'll bring it back down, and I'm assuming this is going to be a 4 fresh Goodyear tire stop for the 9 of LaBeouf. No,
well, I'm trying to think
he is going to top it off on fuel. He has not taken tires. The jacks did not go up on either pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he knows something that we don't know, Josh, because I was going to think that, maybe you come through and fill it full of fuel the first time around, and then when you come back the second time, you get tires and then fill it up again. But he didn't take tires on either one of those stops, Josh.
So here's the replay of his first stop. The entire field brings it down Do the jacks go up? No. Neither of the jacks do. 2 full cans of Sunoco fuel. And there he goes.
Yeah, you're not going to Elliott Sadler cheese your way into a win here at Vegas by not taking tires like you can at Bristol. So I don't really know what the play is there for the 9 camp so far this evening. But like I said, Josh, maybe they know something we don't know.
Well, I slightly understood the no tire gamble when he would have won the race off pit road, but then he brought it back into pit road and then just negated his entire advantage that he got from taking no tires. I'm at a complete loss. He's slow on the apron now, going all the way to the end of the longest line. I wonder if he might have a penalty as well on top of it. Not sure what's going on with the 9 at Brady LaBeouf, but he's not a part of the championship fight. 2 of the drivers in the top 4 are, and that's the 2 on the outside of the front row and the 23 to the inside of the second row. Not a ton of time before we end up in another stage break. This stage, unlike the first being 32 laps, when we go back green will be 31. So we'll have about an equal level stage here, and then we'll be past halfway by about 1 lap, and then we'll go racing in the final 60 or so laps of this race. But it will be Keith Bradley and Ted Wade on the front row, Stephen Thomas, Tyler Dittmer on the second row, Raul Meza, Michael McKinnon third row, Ed Osborne, Devin Painter fourth row, Zach Hartwick and Huck Wigington on the 5th row, as the top 10 will work their way through turns 3 and 4. iRacing official pace truck pulls its way back into pit lane, and the 2 over-the-top designs in Chevy Silverados, the 29 and the 2 at the very front of the field, will look for the Geico restart zone to get us back underway into stage number 2. Keith Bradley's on the loud pedal, and we're back racing. Field will single file themselves out pretty quickly here at the start of stage number 2, as no side-by-side right now amongst the top 5, but Stephen Thomas in the 23 looks like he might be trying something at the front as Huck Wigington loose off a turn 4, gonna lose a ton of time on the inside line, falling all the way now outside the top 20.
Yeah, looking at that initial restart there between Bradley and Wade, Josh, it looked like Bradley got a really good jump, and then Wade just kind of slid in right there behind him. So it seems like so far in this race, these 2 are going to work together to kind of hold off Thomas here in the 23. But give a shout to Stephen Thomas, has been incredibly competitive since the drop of the green flag here in this race, and is continuing to work down on the teammate combination of Bradley and Wade there in 1st and 2nd respectively. But as we say that here, the 34, Tyler Dittmer, with a full head of steam, dives it into turn 1 behind him, Josh.
Tyler Dittmer on the outside goes behind the bumper, the number 2 of Ted Wade. Meza goes to the outside of Stephen Thomas in the background as well. Ted Wade from the bottom to the top and to the inside line goes the number 2 and to the race lead, clearing his teammate for the first time tonight. New race leader in the 2 of Ted Wade, as Bradley and Dittmer now going to fight for P2 as they race back to turn 1.
And I almost think that Ted Wade and Bradley were talking a little bit there, Josh. When they saw Dittmer coming as fast as he could, they gave Ted Wade the lead there. Now he's going to have to hold it off. Bradley's making the inside line work incredibly well in this truck right now. I'm almost surprised a little bit, Josh, how well he's able to make that inside line work, because normally, at least coming off the corners, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage there for the driver on the high side.
Back to turns 1 and 2. Still single file, side by side a little bit further back, and trying to get there at least is the drivers further back at the edge of the top 10. It's right at the edge of the top 10. Clip Mata and Brandon Bullock that'll go side by side in the 17 and the 7. Right behind Devin Painter, Ed Osborne, and Zach Hartwick as well. It's a bit of a good group back here at the edge of the top 10, and some names that we don't normally see up here in the top 10. Doing well at the beginning of this race for the virtual Las Vegas. Down the back straightaway at the front of the field, Ted Wade leads. Keith Bradley with a big head of steam heading back to turn 3. Looks to try and take that lead back, but doesn't get there in time. They'll stay single file. Tyler Dittmer in 4th, Tyler Dittmer in 3rd, Meza in 4th, Stephen Thomas back in P5.
And back in 12th position, Josh, Chris Cinnamon continues to slowly chip his way up through the field. He's kind of back there in a hornet's nest right there. You saw him at the bottom of your screen here as we continue to watch along with our leader, Ted Wade. And him and Bradley have a really good system worked out right now here. Bradley's just kind of holding off any challenges that come to Ted Wade. And Ted Wade, once we see him get in the lead, Josh, you know how hard it is to muscle away from him.
Back across the start-finish line, we'll put 44 laps behind us and go on to lap number 45. Bradley looking to the outside, now not going to be that close or close enough. Still in 3rd, it's Tyler Dittmer. And at this stage, at the start of this race, we had 2 laps, then we had a caution in. So this is the first time that, at least for now, that they're going into a long run directly off of fresh 4 Goodyear tires. So they're going to cycle a little bit differently than they did. They're not going to heat up a little bit, then get cooled back down, then heat up, of course, unless we get a caution. So they're learning a little bit more, and it seems like, at least at the beginning of these runs, the outside line, or the middle line to be more precise, is the dominant line and is the preferred one. That inside line doesn't look to be the best right now.
That, and also it looks like the kind of stop and starts pace kind of favored Stephen Thomas a little bit more now that we're in this long green flag run off of a tire change. Like you mentioned it, Josh, he's kind of now falling back a little bit, finds himself in 5th position here, and then McKinnon's even working on him a little bit as he continues to battle side by side with Meza. Bradley's now going to look to the outside here of Ted Wade. I do believe that is just to slow down a little bit of momentum here that Dittmer has in the 34, but now Ted Wade kind of finds himself in no man's land. He's kind of stuck on that bottom line. We mentioned it, Josh, how dominant the top line is here now that the sun is set in Las Vegas.
Side by side for second, Dittmer outside. Ted Wade gonna experiment a little bit more to the inside line. Does not have enough steam on that inside line to really get anywhere. And you can see it now that they're working their way through 1 and 2, and I'm watching the 2 of Ted Wade. It just doesn't look like it has enough of a push as we can see a battle for the lead. Tyler Dittmer gonna look to the inside. There's just a little bit of momentum on that inside right at the start of the corner. In turns 3 and turn 1, there's a big momentum boost. Then it kind of dies off, especially there's a lot of trucks on that outside line. So it looks like at the beginning of a run, it's a really good idea to be up there. And then once the run kind of develops and once a couple of trucks start breaking up on the outside, you don't have these long draft lines. That inside line becomes viable, like we're seeing in this battle for the lead as Dittmer tries to clear, but they almost door slam down the back straightaway.
Well, speaking of drafting as well, as Dittmer, you saw trying to side draft there, Bradley on the outside. Bradley was able to cut the draft a little bit there on Dittmer heading down the front stretch a few laps ago, but Dittmer able to really use that draft to his advantage, and I believe that's why he finds himself in the lead right now. Bradley trying to do all he can to kind of pin him down to that inside line and allow Ted Wade to try to reel him in a little bit here, but Dittmer's got a fast truck right now, Josh.
Already this time by, going to be 18 laps before we send them through to the stage 3 break, and contact made for the race lead between Dittmer and Bradley. Neither one of these drivers wanting to give an inch, but remember, both of them are not in the championship for Hunt. Ted Wade and Stephen Thomas, to the top running championship drivers right now. They sit 3rd and 4th, not running side by side, and about 3/10 separating the 2 as they go back to turn 3.
And I do believe there Dittmer and Bradley got together now, and we see Dittmer kind of starting to fall back now that he's lost his momentum. It's going to allow Ted Wade to clear him here coming off of turn 4. Now he'll set sail on his teammate Bradley. But that kind of slowed him down just enough where Ted Wade was able to hold on to that momentum and come back at him there. And this is going to be the ebb and flow of a place like this at Las Vegas, Josh. Keeping that momentum up, you mentioned it a few laps ago, how drivers are driving differently in turns 1 and 2 than they are into 3 and 4. That's going to be the difference over the course of a long green flag run here.
back out of turn number 4, and it's back to Keith Bradley in the race lead, and Tyler Dittmer losing that spot again to Ted Wade. Top 4 separated by less than 0.3 of a second as they work their way back through 1 and 2. Dittmer all the way up against the wall and is going to lose a ton of time now in that number 34. Back to 3rd goes Stephen Thomas, but it's kind of the same exact thing that we have seen all year long from Stephen Thomas in he's fast, just not fast enough. Only 1 win this season. That came at the Hickory Motor Speedway all the way back in September. He needs to be a little bit quicker if he wants to be 6-time winner this season, Ted Wade.
Yeah, and right now it's so hard with Ted Wade having his teammate and Bradley here. You'll see like even Dittmer is able to get the lead for a few laps here, and now Thomas is trying to work on Ted Wade here, but it's just going to be that much more difficult because even if you get a run, his teammate's going to be able to pop up and block you here like they have been here for the past couple of laps. And this time around, I think Bradley learned his lesson a little bit. He's doing a better job of not being able to be a draft partner here for one of these drivers like Stephen Thomas that is trying to chase Ted Wade down.
This time by the start finish line, we'll have 13 laps to go for the end of stage number 2, and very quickly creeping up on halfway as well. That halfway lap going to be at lap number 68, which will be the lap that we finish off this second stage at. So exactly half of the race in the first 2 stages. We'll race the other half in stage number 3. And there's Chris Cinnamon in the 3, now back up to P13. A lot of issues off the start in. He did not have that great of a start. We wondered if he possibly had some issues, but he's gaining his way back up through the field, battling now with Clinton Mata for P12 up on the outside line, but he still has a long way to go and a lot of fast cars to try and pass.
Well, yeah, and I mentioned it earlier at the beginning of this stage too, Josh, that he's worked his way up a little bit, but has kind of stalled out here around the 12th position. And with Wade and Thomas up in front of him running 2nd and 3rd respectively, that's just frankly not going to be enough right now. So if you're Cinnamon, you kind of got to do something different. I would say maybe even gambling here at the end of this stage, Josh, and possibly short pitting and maybe getting out in front of the rest of these drivers and get yourself some track position this way. I mean, you got to do something at this point. You find yourself in 12th position, and if you want to win this championship, you got to do something different.
10 laps to go this time by for the end of stage number 2. Single file now through the front of the field. Big storyline right now is Ted Wade and Stephen Thomas battling for the championship. They sit 2nd and 3rd. Thomas has not been able to get the best of Ted Wade since the 2 has climbed his way back up from starting in P11 to in front of the number 23. He has been basically a roadblock the entire first 2 stages, and now the 23 is Stephen Thomas is trying to look for a way by, but I think a little bit to do with the drafting that happens in these trucks at Las Vegas and a little bit to do with the raw speed that Ted Wade has. It's making it a big challenge for Stephen Thomas to try and get by, but Keith Bradley is admittedly not really the fastest truck at the lead of this pack. Last time by, Ted Wade did run a faster lap. It is all over the back bumper, now looking for the race lead through 1.
Now looking for the race lead, and I think if you're Stephen Thomas here, Josh, I think you got to start working with some other drivers there. Maybe work with a Dittmer or maybe even Mesa here. You know, Bradley's not going to work with you, and obviously Ted Wade is not going to work with you at all. But I think if you're Stephen Thomas, you got to get creative. You got to go to Dittmer in this situation. Dittmer's shown some speed to be able to get up to the front of this pack. And I think you need to run with somebody like that and try to get yourself into a spot where maybe you can see how that clean air affects your truck. That is one spot that Stephen Thomas hasn't found himself in position yet, just to see what his truck is like with clean air on the front of it and nobody else to get to battle with.
Side by side for the lead of the championship. Outside line, Stephen Thomas. Inside line, Ted Wade. Through 3 and 4. Will Stephen Thomas be able to use the outside line to get the best of his main championship rival and admittedly the championship favorite? 6 wins this season for Ted Wade versus Stephen Thomas's 1 win this season. Chris Cinnamon working his way back up through the field. He sits 10th right now. Only 1 win for him. That came at the Daytona International Speedway. The only multi-time winner to be in the championship for is Chris Cinnamon and Ted Wade. Cinnamon with 2 because he also won at Kansas here in the playoffs as well. And then Ted Wade with his 6. Stephen Thomas with 1 win that came at a short track as well. He's got a lot to prove tonight, and he's now back at the lead of the championship finale.
Yeah, I was going to say he was able to at least get 1 position here on Ted Wade, and that's the important one. He doesn't need the press Bradley right now, Josh, but I do think that given the circumstances, and we see him make a move to the inside here as we head into turns 3 and 4, Stephen Thomas has got to be leading this race. I don't think you really want to be stuck in this sandwich of Bradley and Wade, because then at that point they can do basically whatever they want to you, Josh, as I believe this time by, is it lap 64 or lap 68 that the stage ends?
It'll be lap 68, 5 to go before we reach the end of the stage, and Stephen Thomas had to kind of get out of the gas a little bit there off the exit of turn 2. Ted Wade did not go for a move into turn 3. He also lifted a little bit off of the throttle on the back straightaway to stay in line, possibly not wanting to go for any big brash moves just yet. As still in the lead is Keith Bradley, then Thomas, Wade, Dittmer, and Raul Meza at the edge of the top 5. Still that top 6 in their own world right now. About 1 second separating all of them, and that leads all the way back to Michael McKinnon in 6th. One of the best runs Michael McKinnon has had all year so far tonight from Las Vegas.
Yeah, and just going further and further into the second stage here, Josh, you start to think, and is anybody going to come down before the end of the stage and maybe try to pit and get tires here? You do run the risk of putting yourself 1 lap down, but you can get that lap back when the rest of the field comes around and pits next time by. And like I said, I mentioned it earlier, if you're a driver like Cinnamon, especially Peacock there in 22nd position, almost 1 lap down, why not, Josh? You have nothing to lose at this point, and all your eggs are in winning this race basket. And speaking of winning this race, Thomas is now going to look to the inside of Bradley here as they come off at turns number 3 and 4 with 2 laps to go left in the stage, make it 1 lap this time by. I'm sorry, it is 2, Josh. Sorry, still 2.
2 laps to go before the end of the stage. It'll be lap 68 as Stephen Thomas goes for the race lead. Not the best decision there through turns 3 and 4 as he hops back up into line. Now Ted Wade back to the inside. This is the battle for the championship right now. We still got half a race to officially decide it, but the track position heading into the final stage and heading into pit stops at the end of stage 2 can be crucial. We've gone green all the way through this second stage of the evening. White flag now out in stage number 2.
White flag out for stage number 2, and we'll see here if Ted Wade could able to get a run here on Stephen Thomas as they head down the backstretch here. Bradley's still in control of this race. He's your leader, and it looks this time at least from Ted Wade, there's not going to be a move here on Stephen Thomas. You saw the last time around, Josh, the momentum for the 23 was killed, and that was able to allow Ted Wade to get a little bit of a run here. But Bradley's going to be your winner here for stage 2, and Thomas is going to hang on and have just 1 position lead over Ted Wade as we head into our final round of caution pit stops here, Josh. We got 1 more pit stop probably in the green flag run, but this is going to be your last stop for the stage end at least.
Keith Bradley winning both of our opening stages here tonight. He's looking for his first win since Rockingham Speedway back on October the 14th. So stage winner, Keith Bradley in stage 1 and in stage 2. And in the background, Tyler Dittmer has just slammed the outside wall and massive damage to the outside of that number 34. Dittmer gonna slow it down, stop it in the infield, but he just took a harsh right hand hook into the outside retaining wall at turn 1. I'm not sure what on earth just happened. I think he might have hit the inside apron on the inside of turn number 1 and just lost the truck and slammed it into the outside wall. one of the fastest trucks all night in the 34, is now out of this race. We'll look at the replay after this round of pit stops, which could be the money stop and set up the track position heading in to stage number 3 and possibly the championship decider. Field brings it in. Everybody on the lead lap gonna elect to come in for pit stops. Keith Bradley, Steven Thomas, Ted Wade, Raul Meza, Michael McKinnon, the top 5 lead him in. Meza goes into the pit lane. Painter's in. Wade is in. Who of our championship 4 is going to come out on top in the race off of the pit road? Everybody looks for 4 tires. McKinnon too far over to the side of his pit stall. That's going to be detrimental in his track position on the racetrack. Out first, Keith Bradley. Out second is going to be Ted Wade by a couple of inches. Steven Thomas ends up 3rd. Meza and Jose Luis Rivera punching his way into the top 5 off the race off of the pit lane.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be too much of an advantage for Ted Wade. We've seen them go back and forth all night long, Josh. So this second half of the race here after we're done with stage 2 is continue to be a setup here between Ted Wade and Steven Thomas.
Now here's that replay of what happened to the 34 of Tyler Dittmer through turns 3 and 4. There's the moment on the apron. There's the correction, and there's the contact. Hard into the outside wall, and that is race over. It's another mistake. You could say Tyler Dittmer maybe not fully at fault from Bristol. Under yellow flag, trying to catch up to the pacing line, hitting the inside apron. Unfortunately, Tyler Dittmer has nobody to blame but himself for that one.
Yeah, and that's really easy to do. Just catch the apron a little bit, especially that part where it flattens out on the pit road. Josh, you saw him there just kind of overcorrect a little bit, and that's what sends him into the wall. But really heartbreaking for the 34 there. You mentioned it. This has happened a few times this season where he's looked like one of the trucks that may be in the conversation for the win, and then just something kind of frankly crazy like that happens and finds himself there in the crotch.
The field now pacing their way through turns 3 and 4, still behind the official iRacing pace truck, and looking like about this time by that we're going to end up getting back to racing. But this third staging, it's pretty much what the entire season has led up to. I mean, this is the moment that the championship will be decided, and we'll see if we end up going green to the end, or we'll see if we end up having some yellow flags. But I mean, 20 races on the calendar from all the way back in July when we began the season at the Daytona International Speedway, all leading up to this championship deciding moment between one of the newcomers in Ted Wade and a mainstay in NASRA with Steven Thomas in the 23. Don't count out Chris Cinnamon. He's up in the top 7 now. And from the back, Taylor Peacock in P15. If things go awry for the top 3, he still has an opportunity of walking away with this championship as the lights go out and the pace truck will go back to racing, this time by 62 laps to go.
Well, something to consider as well if you're Chris Cinnamon, Josh. I mean, Wade and Thomas have been battling for this spot here up at the front of the race pretty much all night long, and once we start getting into the crunch time here, those moves are going to continue to get more aggressive, and you know, maybe some blocks thrown, maybe some aggressive driving here, trying to make some passes here as we come back to green flag racing here for our definitive stage of the season almost. Josh, that could open the door for somebody like Cinnamon if those two get together here late in the race.
Side by side as they work their way down the back straightaway. Ted Wade and Steven Thomas, the top 2 right now in the championship fight, but there's that blue number 3 to the inside of Chris Cinnamon. He's still got a really good opportunity to spoil the party up here at the front, but it's been the championship favorite of Ted Wade really since the middle portion of this year, when he got 4 total wins. By the time Atlanta rolled around, everybody has had money on Ted Wade since the start of this season. Will it be him? Will it be Steven Thomas, Chris Cinnamon, or Taylor Peacock? Only one more stage to decide it. pace truck into the safety of pit lane. 62 laps left in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series season. Geico restart zone for Keith Bradley. We're racing for the final stage of 2022. Side by side for the championship spot as Chris Cinnamon with a big moment off of turn 4 loses a ton of time. He's down into P8 now as the championship 2 start fighting again. Christopher Blanchard slow on the inside, pulls down to the apron of turn 1. Stephen Thomas grabs the championship lead away from Ted Wade.
Yeah, and Ted Wade now under fire here from Jose Luis Rivera, so that's going to put one position between him and Stephen Thomas here 60 laps to go when they get back to the stripe, Josh, left in our season here. And now it looks like Rivera even going to try to make a move here on the inside of Stephen Thomas.
Side by side with Jose Luis Rivera down to the inside. He'll take over second, but Stephen Thomas protects the championship lead. Ted Wade losing time now. He's now all the way back to Chris Cinnamon. Painter to the inside, goes for 5th. They're side by side, almost a door slam between those two, but it's Wade and Cinnamon now that are going to be in a battle as Stephen Thomas gets past as well. The 3 top championship contenders find themselves now middle portion of the way through the top 10.
Yeah, now Devin Painter now mixing up to the inside here of Stephen Thomas. Our championship contenders just continue to fall back through the pack here. The highest one right now is going to be Stephen Thomas in the 5th position. And really, look at this gaggle of cars they're all caught in, Josh. One wrong move from anybody, and this could be the end for multiple jet playoff drivers here.
Side by side for about 3 rows deep. It's still Stephen Thomas with the lead of the championship 4, with the lead of the race now. How about Jose Luis Rivera up to the front of the field? Winless so far this season. He looks for number 1. Keith Bradley is looking for number 3, and first one on an intermediate track this season. How about Devin Painter? He has been a very, very quick racer ever since joining the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series all the way back in the middle way through 2021, and is now in a really good spot to possibly get a win in this race. He's still looking for more success this season, has yet to go to victory lane so far in the latter half of 2022. Same thing with Raul Meza. He's winless all time. Cody Knott, same thing for him. Winless. There's a lot of great storylines up here in the top 5 that don't involve our championship 4.
Yeah, I was just about to say, and then all these drivers in the top 5 are not your championship 4. They're 6th on back right now. 3 of the positions here as we run on the racetrack, and that's kind of interesting to see, Josh. We've seen a lot of times here on these championship 4 races. Really, those guys are the 4 battling for the front of the race here, but they find themselves kind of mired in the pack back from 6 on back here, and your top 5 are all non-playoff drivers at the moment. Bradley there, a little bit of a move there in front of Rivera, and now it looks like here the 26 of Knott's going to move to the inside of Meza here as they head into turn 3. This top 5, though, you can throw a blanket over all 5 of them, Josh.
A little bit loose off the exit of that corner as well. The 26 of Cody Knott as they all race their way into turn 1. Top 10 less than a second. Top 15 less than 2 seconds as this main pack really goes all the way back to P14 in Brady LaBeouf and Ed Osborne in the 42 trying to hold on to this pack as Bradley leads. Rivera in second. Here comes Cody Knott to the inside for 3rd. That beautiful number 99 of Devin Painter on the outside line trying to protect a podium spot as now blocking down the front straightaway. That's the 48 of Robbie Richards keeping Chris Cinnamon championship 4 contender at bay.
Yeah, that's interesting there because as you mentioned, Cinnamon is a championship 4 driver and Richards threw a heavy block on him that last time by, and now Cinnamon's going to be able to move to the outside on him. It looks like Richards is going to let him by here, but as you kind of mentioned, that was an aggressive move down to the inside. Now Cinnamon will set his sights on Ted Wade.
Field starting to single file out a little bit. Cody Knott still on the inside line here with 53 laps remaining in the championship finale from virtual Las Vegas. Back to the back straightaway they go with Bradley, Rivera, Painter, Knott, and Meza the top 5. None of those names in our championship 4. Those 3 drivers sit 6th, 7th, and 8th. Stephen Thomas, Ted Wade, Chris Cinnamon. You got to go all the way back to P16 to find Taylor Peacock in the 81, as he has had trouble all night long and just has not had the speed to race up with these front drivers. And now a lot of damage to the side of that truck. At some point he slammed the outside wall, and his bad night in the championship just turned to worse.
Yeah, wall damage definitely, especially aerodynamic damage here at Las Vegas, is not really going to help you, and you can kind of see already that he's a little bit off the pace here, even with the trucks that are around him. That's Hartwick and Bullock there chasing him down for 17th and 18th respectively, and you can see he's just a little bit off the pace right now, Josh. That aerodynamic damage, I'm sure, is not helping him one bit.
I'm very, very interested in the way that this race is going through right now, because the top 5, none of them championship contenders. Then our 3 championship contenders at 6th, 7th, and 8th, and are also kind of in the same vein that we have seen play out through all of the green flag runs that we have had tonight, which is that passing is a premium. It is very difficult to pass once you get outside of these draft lines that we're seeing develop now in the middle line. It's not like the championship 4 are immune to that. We're seeing that right now with Thomas, Wade, and Cinnamon. They're having trouble not only passing each other, but passing the other drivers on the racetrack.
Well, yeah, and I think if you're Stephen Thomas, you find yourself in like the perfect position here, because you have cars in front of you that you can draft up to, but then you still have every single one of the championship 4 drivers behind you, with the exception of yourself. So, I mean, if you're Stephen Thomas, sure, you're in 6th position. You probably want to win this race along with the championship as well, but you're doing all that you have to do here right now to hang on to it with 49 laps to go.
Field back to single file as well as we enter into the last 50 or so laps of this race, fighting their way through 3 and 4 back to the front straightaway. And Rivera's getting closer and closer to trying to get to the back bumper of the 29 of Keith Bradley. He's right on that back bumper and just has no way to get around right now. He's been trying. It's not without a lack of trying. We know the 20 can lead. He has done it tonight. But the passing right now here at Las Vegas is very difficult to make work. And honestly, Ian, to make sense right now, why would any of these front drivers try and make a pass? All you're doing is going to burn up those tires. If you're in line with everybody else, you can save tires at the same time as making sure that your tires are about the same as everybody else's. I'm not sure if really trying to go for any passes, especially if you're not Ted Wade, not Chris Cinnamon fighting for a championship, if it really makes sense at this stage.
Well, not only that, Josh, you're saving tires, but you're also saving fuel as well. So, yeah, your tires going to be very important here, but we still probably have one more stop left for these drivers under green flag conditions. And unless you're Keith Bradley here, if you're one of these drivers tucked up behind him, you're also saving fuel as well as saving tires here. So you mentioned it. There's no really reason to pass here. There's nothing advantageous about being in the front of this pack right now. All it means is you're the one running full throttle and burning up your tires the fastest.
The fuel is also a big thing, and you mentioned a little bit of saving. I don't think it's going to be enough to really stretch them much farther than where they ran in the opening couple of stages, but I think we can't. Do you think they're going to be able to save enough to reach all the way to the end of the stage? Because I don't think they're going to be able to save 60 laps worth of fuel, but I do think that they might be able to stretch it, as long as their tires allow them to, a little bit farther into this final stage. So maybe one of our championship 4 go for a little bit of an oddball strategy and pit a little bit later, have fresher tires towards the end of the race.
I think that's what you can do, Josh. I don't think you're going to stretch it to the end of this race for sure. But especially if these are green flag stops, if we don't have a yellow here in the latter half of this race, if you can stretch out maybe 1-2 more laps than everybody else and come down the pit road that time, that lends you to a huge advantage. And you kind of mentioned it, one of these drivers going on an oddball strategy. If you're the 81 of Peacock, I mean, I know you do have the damage and you're off the pace right now, but that's pretty much the only thing you can do to give yourself a shot at it, Josh. And I think you're shooting yourself in the foot right now in the 81 camp if you don't give yourself at least a shot to get out in front of this race.
So right now, update on the championship 4. Of course, Peacock running back in P16, and no changes being made in the order of our other 3 in 6th, 7th, and 8th, with Steven Thomas, Ted Wade, and Chris Cinnamon sitting there in the 23, 2, and 3 trucks on the racetrack. And there's Chris Cinnamon at the tail end of that group. And off back to the front straightaway. Wondering what lap we're going to expect to see the first round of pit stop start. I'm assuming it's going to be about 35 laps to go, because right now they're at about 23 laps on the tires and on fuel, which will then mean at around lap 35 they'll be reaching that kind of middle point, or 35 to go, actually around 30 to go. They'll be reaching around that middle point of being halfway through the stage, that they can bring it into the pit lane, they can pit for tires, pit for fuel, and have the same exact run that they had in the stages all the way to the end. If anybody goes farther than that, it gives them a little bit more of an advantage, but I'm wondering when the first earliest pit stops we're going to see happen are, because nobody has run a full green flag run longer than 32 laps.
Well, not only that, too, is that I'm not entirely sure on what the delta time is if, say, that you wanted to stay out, that you would need to get in front of the leaders to be able to keep yourself not only on the lead lap, but towards the front of this race as well. So something else to factor in this race, in this pit decision here. When do you come down for that money stop? Now 40 laps to go in this race. I do think you're going to start to see that window open up, like you said, Josh, with about 35 laps to go. But I'm interested to see if anybody will maybe come down early and try to stretch it here as we get towards the latter half of this race.
And already we're seeing at least one driver into the pit lane. That's Brandon Bullock. I'm not sure if that is on strategy or if it is off strategy. It was fuel only for him. 9.5 seconds in the box. Keith Bradley, Jose Luis Rivera, top 2. Wondering when either one of them will come into the pit lane, or how about Painter? How about Knott? How about Meza? These drivers that want to get to victory lane, most of them for the first time this season, most of them for the first time in their career in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. Do they go for a differing strategy? Do they go for that all-ball strategy that might not make sense for some of our Championship 4, but do make sense if all you're doing is trying to throw that Hail Mary pass to make the crowd go wild and to get that game-winning touchdown?
Yeah, and I mean, why not? I mean, look at it. The top 5 are all non-playoff drivers, and it's kind of trending in that direction right now. But as we say this is about a three-way battle for your 4th position, Josh. The 26 of Knott now moving to the outside of Meza, and Rewrite on board with our championship leader right now. This is Steven Thomas trying to navigate himself through a little bit of a tricky situation here, but he's got to keep pushing forward.
Still on board with Championship 4 contender and Championship leader in Steven Thomas. He gets by Cody Knott. The 26 all the way up on the outside line will let Ted Wade through as well. About to let Chris Cinnamon also through. So that'll keep a majority of our Championship of 4 runners pretty close on the racetrack. That's the 39 of Dane Hagen, who made his way back to the lead lap after a couple of cautions. Now we'll go one lap down and will work his way back to the pit lane. He got into an incident earlier on in this race. There's Taylor Peacock coming in, one of our Championship 4, along with Zach Hartwick. Now, could this be the Hail Mary strategy that tries and gets him the championship? 35 laps going to go on those tires, Ian. I don't know if that's going to be the strategy that's going to be the game-winning one for the 81.
I kind of agree with you. I don't think it's going to be enough to get him the race win, but we kind of mentioned it here, Josh, as we talked about strategy coming into this final pit stop. If you're the 81, you got to do something, right? I mean, you got to do something there that kind of changes up the strategy. I will say 5th, 6th, and 7th here, now 5th, 6th, and 8th are the other top 3 Championship 4 drivers. I think your strategy is kind of set in stone. I think you'll see all of them go pretty similar to each other as far as laps go. But yeah, good move by Peacock there. You did something there at least to switch it up a little bit.
Chris Cinnamon loses a spot to Robbie Richards. Cinnamon now down to 9th on the racetrack. Taylor Peacock out of the pit lane, 4 fresh Goodyear tires, 2 cans of Sunoco fuel. He's back on 1 lap down, P19, and will start his run all the way to the end of this race. Right about now, we're at that 32 lap stint. Everybody that is yet to pit under this stage has run about 32 laps on the tires. This is the longest run now officially that we have had so far tonight. There's our next championship driver in Chris Cinnamon. The 3 is in, so he wants a very similar stint to what he had just now. And in stage 2, he'll have about 33 laps on those tires as they continue to fight for the race lead with Bradley and Jose Luis Rivera.
Yeah, and I'll hand it to Cinnamon there. He's had a pretty good run here in this 3rd stage, able to stick right with the top 2 championship 4 drivers of Thomas and Wade, respectively. And now the question is, when is Wade going to come in? When is Thomas going to come in? Really, when's going to be the first one of these drivers to blink here and give away their possible championship lead to come in and pit here for the final time? And this is kind of pretty much going to do it, Josh. You got 2 out of 4 championship 4 drivers pitting so far. I really highly doubt, although I just jinxed it, that we see a yellow flag come out here before the end of this race. But that's what we're looking at right now, is Thomas now trying to fight off Wade here. Going to be interesting to see when these guys come to pit road.
Nobody else going to bite the bullet and come down into the pit lane among our championship 4. Cinnamon and Peacock, the only 2 in our championship 4 to come down in the pit lane. Now we see Michael McKinnon. Now we see Brady LaBeouf working their way into the pit lane. No speeding penalties yet within any of these pitting group. 30 to go at the line. And now 35 laps on the stint counters for everybody in the field once they cross the line here. When is Stephen Thomas going to come in? When is Ted Wade going to come in? It looks like they both want to try and stretch as much as they possibly can within this stint, because as LaBeouf exits, as McKinnon exits, Cinnamon and Peacock still 1 lap down. Last time by for Chris Cinnamon, a 30.957, a 31.863 for Keith Bradley. So about a second faster than any of our drivers in this lead group is Chris Cinnamon. He has an opportunity to get that lap back, and of course, once he passes Ted Wade and once he passes Stephen Thomas, Ian, that's going to dramatically change how the course of this final stage is going to go.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. And the longer these guys stay out, Thomas and Wade, the more it allows Cinnamon here to chip into this gap. So if you're the 3, I mean, you're all systems go right now. You're trying to get all you possibly can before these guys come down the pit road. And it looks like Thomas and Wade are both going to go at least one more time around here. You can see these guys are definitely trying to stretch it as long as they can here and have the shortest run on those fresh tires all the way to the end that they possibly can, Josh. And really, I don't see why not. If you're Ted Wade, you've continued to be dominant all year long. Why not go in here and just give yourself a fresh race car with 20 laps to go and go out there and win it the old-fashioned style?
28 laps remaining in the season. Clint Mata comes into the pit lane. Jeffrey Sickles now just exiting the pit lane in the 22. Bradley is spread out from the rest of the field with those worn tires. 31.979 last time by, 32.096 for Jose Luis Rivera. Stephen Thomas still in 3rd. Ted Wade still in 4th. 27 laps left. And still, all of these drivers now in the top 7 still need to pit. Chris Cinnamon is in 8th. He's the first driver 1 lap down. And the next of our championship contenders on the racetrack, who is catching up to the back bumper of Ted Wade. Will Stephen Thomas and Ted Wade pit before they get passed by Chris Cinnamon? Stephen Thomas says yes. The 23 leading the championship is in.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting, Josh, to say the least. Now, he's probably going to at least lose the spot to Cinnamon. I don't know if Ted Wade has a big enough advantage here when he comes to pit road, but then once it shuffles back around, Cinnamon's going to have to hold these guys off with a little bit fresher tires here in this final run.
Keith Bradley still leads. Ted Wade still left on the racetrack. Here comes Wade, the last of our championship four to pit. Jose Luis Rivera's in as well. Keith Bradley stays on the racetrack. Meza's in. Knott is in. This will complete the cycle, except for Christopher Blanchard and Keith Bradley. They stay on the racetrack. Chris Cinnamon has passed Stephen Thomas on the racetrack. Thomas is exiting the pit lane. Chris Cinnamon is long gone. 3+ seconds now over his next championship rival with 25 to go.
Yeah, and Ted Wade here still on pit road, still getting service done to the right side of his race truck right now. So it looks like Cinnamon is going to get his lap here, but is it going to be enough time to get back to Ted Wade and inherit that race lead? That's going to be the real question. I think it's going to be just enough here, Josh, but it's definitely going to be a battle between Wade and Cinnamon here for the final 24 laps.
Wade is still stuck on the apron as well. That's 2.5 seconds. That's now 3 seconds, the gap between Wade and Cinnamon. Thomas losing a ton of spots as well. He's back to 10th. Chris Cinnamon is in 3rd. But the championship fight turned on its head as Keith Bradley pits from the race lead. Christopher Blanchard now the only driver left on the racetrack yet to pit under stage number 3. But Chris Cinnamon now leads the championship with only 24 laps remaining.
Well, you put yourself in position at least here. You mentioned it, 24 laps to go, so still enough time, I would say, for Ted Wade if he's got a fast race truck to run Cinnamon down. But I will say, Josh, Cinnamon's put himself in a pretty good spot here. If you told him he was going to be in the lead of this race with 22 laps to go, well, the net lead of this race when everybody pits out with 22 laps to go, I'm pretty sure the 3 camp would take that.
What a night for Chris Cinnamon. Remember at the beginning of the race when he had some problems off of the start as well, fell all the way back to the edge of the field, has rallied his way back. Not the best qualifying effort from him as well, qualifying 13th. But since then, it has been a fantastic run for Chris Cinnamon. 21 laps to go. Next time by the start-finish line, 22 this time for Chris Cinnamon as he runs behind Christopher Blanchard. Blanchard hoping for a yellow flag right now. 43 laps on those tires. That 19 is not liking its life at the front of the field right now. 9.7 seconds the gap and closing quick for the 3.
Yeah, not really a good day if you're Blanchard right now. He's just barely hanging on. I would assume we'll see the 19 come to pit road pretty shortly here, but that's going to give the race lead back to Cinnamon here. And I'm sorry, he's not quite back there yet. I thought he just passed Blanchard, but he will pass Blanchard here in a second here. But I think Blanchard's just stretching this run out as far as he possibly can, Josh.
20 to go this time by the stripe, and there is the 29 back in the pit lane. That's Keith Bradley. Was it a possible speeding penalty for the 29? Because he had already made his pit stop. This is pit stop number 4 for him now. Bradley pulls it into the pit lane, and it is a stop and go penalty. Keith Bradley speeding on the pit lane, and the fastest truck all night, unequivocally in 2 stage wins, just lost it right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's that simple. We talk about, like, you know, people think that pit road is not that important here, especially on the iRacing service, but you got to get down pit road. You got to maintain that pit road speed all the way down. And then you got to make sure that you hit your pit box, Josh. And we kind of saw that there, not maintaining speed for Bradley gives him a penalty. And you mentioned it, one of the most dominant trucks all night. Now he's not going to have a chance to battle for the win here.
Not only 19 laps left in the race, not only 19 laps left in the stage, but 19 laps left in the championship as well, which has been a very, very great season of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, and right here on Racecraft TV all season long. And right now with 18 to go, of course, Chris Cinnamon leads, but not by that big of a margin anymore. It's a 2-second gap with Chris Cinnamon having 15 laps on the tires, Ted Wade having 7, Stephen Thomas having 8. They are closing and quick, but It's going to be the battle between Cinnamon, Wade, and Thomas. And Wade, of course, comes into tonight as the favorite, but the way the championship format works in whatever leads up to tonight doesn't matter. You have to perform in the final race, in the championship race of the season. And if Chris Cinnamon walks away with this championship, he won it off of a golden strategy.
Yeah, and that's kind of the fun thing here as we get through the playoffs and these sort of single race elimination formats that we have, because if you took the aggregate of the season and took your championship that way, Josh, Ted Wade is your winner by and far. There's no question about it. Just the most dominant season that we've seen from any driver here this year. But you mentioned it, one race here, one time to kind of put all your chips on the table here and go all for it, and Ted Wade finds himself in second place. I do think he's going to be able to reel in Cinnamon before the end of this race, but you got to imagine Cinnamon's going to be putting on every kind of defensive effort to hang on here with Ted Wade.
15 laps to go at the line this time as finally Christopher Blanchard pulls it into the pit lane. Chris Cinnamon leads, but the likes of McKinnon, Wade, Thomas, Meza, and LaBeouf, they're catching. And they're catching pretty quick. 1.7 seconds is the gap. They're in a big line of trucks right now. Chris Cinnamon out in front by 1.7 seconds is looking in his mirror. He can see now the side-by-side battle, which is undoubtedly going to slow them down a little bit, but I don't know how much of a tire difference is really going to matter. It's 18 laps versus 16 on McKinnon, 10 on Wade, 11 on Thomas, and 10 on Meza. I'm not sure if Chris Cinnamon has that old enough of tires that a tire difference is going to be what ends up factoring into this lead battle.
Well, Wade's got to clear McKinnon here. I mean, that's pretty much what's going on, and it looks like he'll get it done this time by. But I will say, if I'm Ted Wade, he was getting a really good advantage there from the draft off of McKinnon there, and he's still going to get it a little bit here. He's still going to get a little bit of the push here, Josh, but I don't know if I'm Ted Wade if I wanted to get rid of that draft.
Field now with 13 laps to go and 1.2 seconds, that gap. This is going to be an intense run to the finish, because when they catch him in, I don't think they're gonna have a whole lot of time either, because as they continue to catch and as they continue to run down, it's 9.5 tenths right now, 12 to go. They got to catch him and they got to pass him. And we know how struggling passing has been this year.
Yeah, but you got to, like, well, look at the gap, how quickly it's closing between Wade and Cinnamon. That's closed about a half a second here in the last lap, and it's just continuing to shrink here. You watch Ted Wade, 742, now 738, 733 back from Cinnamon here. So he's continuing to reel him in, Josh, and he keeps doing it at this pace. I don't think Cinnamon has anything to stop him.
11 laps to go now. 5 tenths the gap. What can Chris Cinnamon do when Ted Wade and Steven Thomas catch? It'll be Wade first, and with a half-second gap down the back straightaway, it's 22-lap-old tires versus 14-lap-old tires. This is going to be the true test. Can Ted Wade get by Chris Cinnamon? Can Chris Cinnamon hold the biggest driver of the season at bay?
Yeah, that Cinnamon's going to have to make that 3 truck about 3 lanes wide if he's going to hold off Ted Wade. And you can continue to see now, you can physically see the gap shrinking here. Just, it was about 4 truck lengths, now about 2 truck lengths here as they head into turns 1 and 2, Josh.
Down the back straightaway, side by side for the championship. Wade down to the bottom of the racetrack. He looks for the race lead and looks for the lead in the championship. And that's all Ted Wade needed. Cinnamon down to second place. 2 tenths back, 9 laps to go. What can Steven Thomas do? Now the 3 mainstays of the championship for tonight are top 3 on the racetrack with 9 to go.
Yeah, and we've kind of seen this all season long from Ted Wade, Josh. He kind of just sits there and he's patient. In pretty much every single race that we've had this season, he's had a chance to win. He's had a chance to get himself up to the front. And I'm pretty sure he's led a majority of these races all season long, and now just patient, methodical. Now with 8 laps to go when they cross the stripe this time by, Ted Wade does have a little bit of work still here to do. Stephen Thomas is still fast, and he's still chasing him down. But right now, no mistakes out of the 2 truck, and he's going to walk away here from Las Vegas, Josh, with a championship.
The position Chris Cinnamon was in the last season, season 4 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, was almost exactly this. He won the championship from second. It's not going to be 2 in a row as of right now. With 7 to go at the line, Stephen Thomas passes him. Jose Luis Rivera looks for third, but now it's 4 tenths that'll separate Ted Wade and Stephen Thomas. These two all night long in have been unseparatable. They have been so close on the racetrack. It's been Stephen Thomas trying to get by Ted Wade, trying to force his way up and into the lead of the championship 4. It's 4 tenths the gap with 6 to go at the line. This is where Stephen Thomas is going to earn his keep, because he's got to beat 6-time winner, looking at 7 right in the face, Ted Wade.
And he's chipping away at the lead just a little bit, Josh. That last time by, he was about a 10th faster than Ted Wade, so he's still got the speed. 6 laps to go. A 10th will get him basically there with around 2 laps to go, Josh. So we'll see if he's able to get the pass done.
5 laps to go this time by the stripe for the championship, for the final win of the season, and for the final time in 2022. 5 laps remain. 3.5 tenths is the gap. What is Stephen Thomas going to do when he catches Ted Wade? Because right now, Wade's running that middle line, same line as Stephen Thomas. You can't expect Wade to run anywhere different, Ian. Stephen Thomas is going to have to go to the low side, a place where he has not been the best so far tonight.
But yeah, but you got to do something. I mean, 5 laps to go. The championship's on the line here. It doesn't matter which line you're stronger in, or what line works for you, what line doesn't. You got to make something work here out on the racetrack. And I think possibly for Stephen Thomas, he continues to chip away at this gap, but he's getting just a little bit slower each time by, and he's just going to have a little bit more time here. He's got to steal away from Ted Wade if he's going to come home with his championship.
3 to go at the line. Stephen Thomas starting to be within striking distance. Less than 2 tenths, a 1.5 to be exact, as they work their way through turns 3 and 4. 3 laps to go at the line. Ted Wade in full defense mode right now. Stephen Thomas trying to get by both of these drivers, looking for championship number 1. Thomas has been close. He's been close more than once to a championship. He's been dominant in seasons and hasn't been able to get it done. So far this season, only 1 win at Hickory. He's looking to try and win the championship on 2 wins in a season. Ted Wade looking to win it with 7 wins in his first season of competition. He looks for his first championship. 2 to go at the line. Stephen Thomas is there.
Stephen Thomas is there, Josh, but now let's see what he's able to do to make the pass. You kind of mentioned it, Ted Wade doing a great job of holding off that outside line. Now he moves to the bottom here. This is going to give a little bit of a run to Thomas. I wonder if Thomas is going to look to the inside here. Right now, he looks now for the inside. He's inside of Wade there. They almost touched going into turn number 3. Josh, they'll be side by side here as they come by the stripe.
Stephen Thomas is going to clear Ted Wade. Wade now goes from defense to offense. White flag, 1 final lap in season 5 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. 2 drivers going for championship number 1. 6 wins for Ted Wade, 1 for Stephen Thomas. Who's going to walk away a champion? Down the back straightaway for the final time. It's been a long time coming for that number 23 of Stephen Thomas. Multiple seasons under his belt, but nothing to show for it. He goes for championship number 1. He'll win the war at the end of the day. Season 5 champion Stephen Thomas. He joins Higginbotham, Wilson, LaBeouf, and Cinnamon as series champions.
And what a run there from Stephen Thomas in the last 15 to 20 laps, Josh, just slowly chipping away at Ted Wade's lead. And that's got to be nerve-wracking, Josh. We've seen how many races that Wade's won this season. He's won 6. If you're Stephen Thomas, you're sitting in the back going, hey, I got a faster race truck than this guy here. And what composure to be able to get it done there with about 3 laps to go, Josh. You got to imagine the nerves were getting to him. He hangs on, and he's a NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series champion.
credited wins going all the way back to the beginning of this league. It has been a very long time in the making, and he can finally burn it down. Not just a winner at Las Vegas, but a champion of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. He joins the likes of Jason Higginbotham, Bradley Wilson, Brady LaBeouf, and Chris Cinnamon, two drivers that built the beginning of this league and two of its best since we began. And now Stephen Thomas becomes the 5th different series champion in 5 seasons. He burns it down on the front straightaway. He is your champion in Sin City. And we'll take a look at your full race results with the 23 at Thomas, not just winning the championship, but he also takes home the checkered flag tonight. Ted Wade, 2nd championship for contender, and oh so close. He ends up 2nd. Jose Luis Rivera, Chris Cinnamon, your 3rd of your championship 4 in 4th, and Michael McKinnon rounds out your top 5. Brady LaBeouf, Justin Lumpkin, Robbie Richards, Devin Painter, and Ed Osborne through to the edge of the top 10. Back from there, P11, Cody Knott, Jeffrey Sickles, Huck Wigington. There's your final championship 4 contender. Taylor Peacock, the Nightmare Knight that he did not want. He ends up P14, and last driver on the lead lap is Zach Hartwick, with Christopher Blanchard finishing 1 lap down. Same with Brandon Bullock, Raul Meza, and Clint Mata. Keith Bradley ends up at the edge of the top 22 laps down, and everybody else back from here with issues ending in the pit lane. Dane Hagen, James Morris, Tyler Dittmer, Keith Haney, Dana Shepard, and Kyle Hessen. TJ Moore, race control, did not start. Kyle Hess also did not start this race. But I say, Ian, we don't waste much more time. We get to talking with the champion of Season 5 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, Stephen Thomas, joining us in the broadcast booth. And Stephen, I just want to get your thoughts. What does it mean to you to hear Season 5 NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series champion Stephen Thomas? I know how long you've worked for this, and you are now a champion. Congratulations.
You said it, man. It's been a long time coming and very close. I think the past three chances, man. It feels awesome. I would scream right now, but I know I'd break your eardrums, and I'm going to be respectful, man. I've been screaming and breaking my teammates' eardrums for the past 5 minutes.
All season long, it has not been the best season for you. You've been close. You haven't gotten to victory lane maybe as much as you thought you deserved, or that we thought you deserved, but that win at Hickory gets you into the playoffs, and then the consistency that you've had all season long carried you through to the championship 4. And tonight, you didn't seem like you had the fastest truck on the track. What did it take to get to victory lane and get this championship?
Oh, man, to be honest, I felt like I did the entire time. I was just completely chill, letting the first 4 or 5 cars go in front of me. I knew in the 3rd stage I needed to save a lot to try to get a run away from Ted before pit. And to be honest with you, I got help from a lap car there that kind of got me some distance on him so I could go in without him really knowing or following me. And I knew if I had a really good pit stop and came out near him that I had the long run, man. My truck felt good all night long.
Just who makes it all possible for you? Because I know you've got the team behind you, you've got people at home behind you, and for now, 3 seasons trying to get this championship, you finally get it. Take your moment. This is all for you. Season 5 champion Stephen Thomas. Who makes it all possible?
Man, absolutely everybody. Everybody in this league makes it possible. The fact that we're season 5 going season 6 with 30 plus drivers a night, that makes it possible for the money and the sponsorship and the broadcast and all that stuff. Obviously, my teammates have helped me all season. You're right, I didn't have the season that I wanted, but I just put myself. Just my goal was a championship for all year long, and once I got there, it's anybody's game. But yeah, there's a bunch of people. I hope I don't miss anybody. I want to thank my grandparents. My grandma and grandpa watch every single race all season, the past 3 seasons. They're watching right now, so I want to thank them for the support they give me. My family, every Friday night racing, we give up a lot of stuff on Friday night so I can race. I want to thank Brady, of course, Brady LaBeouf, and Triple M Pulling, Michael McKinnon, ButtKicker, NASRA 360, Pulse Poppers, Starbase Comics, and that's all the sponsors involved to make this thing run smoothly and have payouts and all that good stuff. Like I said, you guys at the broadcast all season. I hope to see you guys next season. I'm not sure what we worked out there, but I hope to see you guys back. And that's it, guys. I appreciate everything, and I'm super, super pumped to have this, man. A long time coming. Thanks, guys.
Massive congratulations to you as well. That is Season 5 champion of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, the 23 of Stephen Thomas. Ian, it was close for Ted Wade. The dominant force all season does not get it done at the end of the day. You're standing by with him.
Ted, I know it's got to be heartbreaking for you, man. You come through your dominant all season long, 6 race wins, and then when it comes down to the championship for you, you're just a tenth of a second short from the ultimate victory. I know it's got to hurt for you a little bit, but still a good season for you guys, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. It's been a great season. Yeah, I kind of screwed that up there. I think if I could have stayed in front of Steven, it would have made him difficult to get around me, and I just chose the wrong lane. I was expecting that lap car to kind of stay high, and he went to the bottom. But all in all, it's been a great season.
Well, you kind of took my next question out of my mouth there. I was going to ask what you could do, if anything, to kind of catch up there to Stephen Thomas in that final couple of laps, but you kind of answered that question. So I'll ask this. What are the plans here for Ted Wade in the future? Are you coming back to the Truck Series, or are you moving up? What are you thinking for next season?
Oh yeah, I definitely want to be back next season. He invited me back for a handful of races if I want to. I'm still unsure on the plans for that, but I am running their Xfinity Series next season, and hope to do good over there.
Well, a great from your run all season here for us, Ted, and we really do appreciate that. Anybody that helps you get it done out of the racetrack, not only here tonight, but all season long.
Yeah, man, like to give shout out to Over the Top Designs, John Hedrick, man. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be over here. Bruzy Racewear, Dan's Top Notch Heating Cooling, teammates over at Up Front, Chris Sentiment and Keith Bradley. We've had a good season going, well, last couple seasons really, and we work pretty good together, and we managed to get it done at the end of the day. Racecraft TV, you guys, Triple M Pulling, Pulse Poppers, everybody here at NASRA, it's been great.
Well, that was your second place finisher here. Ted Wade, dominant all season, comes up just short here in the final race, Josh. But we got interviews here left with the rest of our Championship 4 finishers, and we're heading over to Chris Sentiment now, and he's standing by with you now, Josh.
A bold strategy at the beginning of, at the middle portion of stage number 3 there for you, Chris, going for 2 championships in a row, but you don't get it done at the end of the day. What was the main struggle out there on the track for you?
Oh man, it almost worked. I just needed drafting help. I came out, I nailed my pit stop, came out in front, fresh tires, but I didn't have anyone to draft with, and I saw them kind of clicking down the time behind me, and I thought I had a chance, but last 10, 15 laps, that was it. They were coming.
And of course, throughout this season, it's been a bit started out great for you at the beginning of the season. You got that win at Daytona, then you get the win at Kansas to lock yourself into the Elite 8. Consistency brings you here to Las Vegas in the Championship 4. But overall, what did this season mean to you? You win the opening round of the season, you lock yourself into the playoffs right from the jump, and then from there, it's just been slowly preparing and prepping for this championship.
No, it was a great season. Like always, the guys we raced with here is absolutely amazing. I was happy with the season. I was fast in so many races. I felt like I was top 5 and probably 80-90% of the tracks we ran it. I just couldn't finish sometimes, and get caught up in one thing or another. Kind of ruined my chances a couple times. But overall, it was a fast truck.
Who makes it all possible for you in the team? Because I know we haven't talked to you too much up here in the booth, but you get your opportunity here at the end of the championship, and still not 2 in a row for you in the championship winner's circle, but still a 3rd place in the championship against a great group of guys. Who makes it all possible?
Oh yeah, and hey, I'll mention that too. I'll take that. I'm actually on vacation right now, playing with my buddies set up in the province away. So it was a learning curve today. But no, I want to thank Over the Top Designs. John's put this awesome team together every year, and we've had a great time working together. Dan's Top Notch Cooling and Heating. He's been on the truck all year. Shout out to him. A Bruzy Racewear, Triple M Polling, Mike McKinnon for sponsoring this again this year, and of course Brady LaBeouf for keeping us in line and keeping us organized.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here post-race on Racecraft TV. And congratulations, 3rd place in the championship for you as well. Great season.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for everything you're doing with the broadcast, and we'll talk to you later.
Great to hear from Chris Sentiment. A 3rd place in the championship and ends up 4th total at the end of the night. But it was a very struggle-filled race for Taylor Peacock, and you're standing by with him. It was a finish of 14th for him on the racetrack and 4th in the championship.
A fourth in the championship, Taylor, but I'm sure you wanted a lot more from this race tonight. Talk to us a little bit. What were some of the struggles you ran into that didn't quite give you the run that you were looking for?
Yeah, I definitely wanted more than fourth. Well, right off the bat, I decided I'm gonna not pit or not take tires on the stages, and hopefully at the end there, I was banking on a caution. I had to have a caution for it to work out, but never quite got that caution. It came close a couple times, but some guys were able to save it. But yeah, I went all in on saving that set, hoping for that caution at the end, similar to what Cinnamon did last year. It didn't quite pan out in my favor. It's awesome. I had my teammate Stephen Thomas got the win and the championship. That was awesome. It was fun to listen to him in the Discord. He was sweating bullets while he's racing up there and trying to get the lead from Ted. That was fun. I had a blast all season. It was fun racing, that's for sure.
Well, a top 4 finish for the season is nothing to shake a stick at, but looking into the future for Taylor Peacock, what are you looking forward next year, and what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, man, I am very much looking forward to next year. I am going to have a new team be up with Upfront Motorsports with Keith, Cinnamon, and Blanchard. But I'd like to say thanks to my teammates this year. It was awesome racing with them guys. Joey and Stephen Thomas, like it said, it's awesome for him to bring straight cash money, a championship. That was great. I'm definitely looking forward to next year. I definitely need to put in some more practice time. And hopefully next year bring home a couple more W's and see if we can't get back to this spot next year and do a little better.
Well, we're all looking forward to seeing the improvement from you, Taylor. Before you go, really quick here on the season, anybody you want to shout out to that helps you get it done out there on the racetrack?
Yes, for sure. Blanchard's Towing, he's always a great sponsor of mine and teammate. And also, I'd like to thanks to everybody at Racecraft that does the broadcast for NASRA. I love going back and watching them. My kids love to go back and watch them. I appreciate you guys broadcasting. And last, Brady LaBeouf for putting this awesome league on. He works his butt off putting this on, and we appreciate him a lot. It's an awesome group to race with, and I can't wait for next season.
Well, that was Taylor Peacock, the final of your championship 4 drivers here tonight from Las Vegas. Really appreciate the time, Taylor.
Thank you, guys.
And that's going to do it for us this season here, Josh, for our interviews on the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series from Las Vegas here. Obviously, Stephen Thomas, your champion, and really just what a season we had from start to finish, Josh, all the way from Daytona, finishing up here at Vegas, and look forward to doing it all again with you next year.
It was a fantastic season. A massive congratulations again to Stephen Thomas. A long time in the making for him, and he joins Chris Cinnamon, Brady LaBeouf, Bradley Wilson, and Jason Higginbotham as 5 champions of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series from July 8th, when we began at the Daytona International Speedway for the first points race of the season, all the way to now, December the 16th at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We have been to a number of unique tracks here on Racecraft TV on Friday nights for the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, and we hope that you'll continue to follow the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series wherever we end up in 2023. But for now, we're putting a bookend to 2022 and season 5, and another massive congratulations to Stephen Thomas in the number 23 on grabbing the championship. For Zach Johnson producing all season long, an amazing job from him to jump in, and for Ian Fisher for being here just about every week, for Terry Radford, who's joined us in the booth a couple of times. My name is Joshua Lee, and we thank you for tuning in to season 5 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. We'll see you in 2023 as season 6 goes green.